They support a lot of small organizations that I wouldn't have any way of knowing about because they don't advertise or anything like that. But these are worthy organizations dealing in some cases with very special needs of students, for example, or neighborhood organizations helping strangers from out of town and so forth. Small charities that you wouldn't know about if it wasn't for the fund for Santa Barbara.
Interesting. What did you do for a living?
Well, I had 3 careers. I was a naval aviator, and I worked in taxes and finance, and finally I was a school teacher.
Well, thank you. I appreciate your comment. And your name is?
John Mealy.
Okay, thanks, John.
You're welcome.
Tell me, why do you support the fund?
It's a wonderful organization. It supports and funds little under-the-radar fringe efforts that nobody else knows enough about to support and fund. And I don't know how Geoff Green and his people find them, but they do. And they're heartbreaking little stories that need support. And the Fund for Santa Barbara does that to lots of them.
Can you give me any examples of what type of organization?
Yes, we always go to the awards ceremony. Let's see, there was a group of young Hispanic women in Santa Maria, 3 of them maybe, that wanted to start a little school to teach their parents English so that their parents could advance in an Anglo-speaking world and not be forever stuck in low-level ag jobs. Things like that.
Very nice. And what do you do for a living?
I'm a landscape architect. I kind of manipulate and design the world.
Okay, thank you. And your name is?
Isabel Green.
Thank you, Isabel. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
The world can handle a lot of good thought and good design, and I'm up for it for the rest of my life.
And probably another 30 or 40 years?
I'm planning on it.
So, what's one of the social causes you feel strongly about?
Getting the homeless off the streets.
Any thoughts about that?
I think we need to help them get back on their feet. You know, it's not fair to treat them like criminals just because they're destitute.
And they don't have the tools to help themselves sometimes, huh?
Absolutely, yeah. They obviously need help.
Yeah. What do you do for a living?
I'm a software engineer.
Nice. Thank you. And you want to share your name?
Michael Weaver.
Thank you, Michael. Thanks. What social cause do you do?
Well, of course, the fund, and also Pacific Pride Foundation.
And for those that don't know, what is Pacific Pride Foundation?
That's an AIDS Alliance, gay, lesbian, and GLBT issues and AIDS Alliance here in the Central Coast, Santa Maria down to Santa Barbara.
And are there any particular issues with the Alliance these days?
Funding to help keep testing available and to help people in need. Yeah, they've got a great kitchen there that they send all kinds of information and supplies out to people, and some funding would be good.
Nice.
Always. I'm Robbie.
Thank you, Robbie.
Cheers, Larry.
Hi, and you are?
I'm Santa Barbara City Council Member Greg Hart.
Greg, what are one of the social issues that you support?
Well, income inequality in our country and in our county and in the city of Santa Barbara is a major issue. We really need to do a better job, I think, of integrating the community as a whole, bring together all the different demographic components of Santa Barbara, and work together on the issues that are important for us on a daily basis.
What can be done about income inequality?
Well, I think the city has a tremendous role to play in opening up government so that everyone in our community can participate. We have a lot of our meetings now on public access television, translated into Spanish, to encourage more involvement with everybody in our community on the decisions the government makes.
Okay, well, thanks, Greg. Keep up the good work.
My pleasure. Thanks, Larry.
Well, hi, and you are?
Cinder Sinclair with Nonprofit Connect.
And what are some of the social causes you support?
Oh, so many wonderful social causes. So, there's Friendship Center in Montecito and Goleta.
What do they do?
They provide wonderful caregiver services and also daycare for seniors. Yeah, very inspiring. And also, there's a Carpinteria Art Center, which is fabulous. Oh my gosh, offering art for so many people, every age, right in Carpinteria.
Why is art important?
Oh gosh, people live their dreams through art. They identify who they are, they live themselves through art. And it helps kids, older people, everybody in between get in touch with who they are. So here's a wonderful nonprofit. This is the Plaza Theater in Carpinteria. Talk about artists, oh my gosh. These folks, from concerts to theater to anything you can imagine, right on the stage in our town of Carpinteria. It's inspiring what these folks do.
Thanks, Cinder. Keep up the good work.
Yeah, thanks, Larry.
Well, hi, and you are?
My name is Raul Razo from La Hermandad Hank Laca Youth and Family Center in Santa Maria.
Tell me, what social cause do you support?
I think it's important that we educate the community. It's important to provide information to the community directly, to provide the information that's needed for the people on a day-to-day basis. I think information is not being service to the underserved community.
Like what type of information is particularly needed?
Just the basic necessities from education for parents and families especially. The population that we work in Santa Maria are from the Mixteco, Oaxaqueño, and Guerrero and Latino community. I think that there's a separation from services, agencies, and organizations providing that information directly to families. There's a disconnection. It's not reaching the masses.
What's the way to do it? Through people giving it, or through written materials, or various things?
Written material would not be. I think it's the literature and the format. I think it's overwhelming for families, given that a large percentage of the families work in agriculture and they work from 12 to 14-hour days. And so when they come home, it's difficult for them to look at something that's written. I think oral, I mean, since it's a tradition, it's part of the culture, something that it's more for children that go to school, for them to provide the information to the parents. And so I think it's something that we need to get families involved. So if you want to provide information for families, you need to be able to be hands-on and be able to build that trust with families and their children.
Thank you. And your name and your organization again?
Raul Razo from La Hermandad Hank Laca Youth and Family Center.
Hey, nice to see you.
Thank you. Okay.
How do you spell your name?
R-A-U-L, last name R-A-Z-O.
And your email address?
Is R-A-Z-O at La Hermandad, LAHERMENDAD.org.
That was R-R-A-Z-O.
Correct.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
Sunglasses on? Or should I lose?
And you are?
Stephen McIntosh.
And what social cause do you support?
I support anything that advances our protection or conservation of resources in the environment.
What are some of the issues people should know?
Well, I think one of the biggest things, and what I have a lot of experience in, is the solid waste management system for our community and other communities. We've made some great strides in recycling over the last 25, 30 years. And composting is just now starting to get legs and get off the ground, but there's a long way that we can go still to get more recyclable materials and compostable materials out of the waste stream and into beneficial reuse.
Why would you tell people they should recycle?
Well, the first thing about recycling that most people don't know that's really important is the fact that one bag of trash actually represents 70 bags of upstream discards or waste in the extraction and the refining process and transportation process. So it's not just saving resources and getting them into a recycling center and turning a can into another can, but it's all the upstream waste and resources that go into getting that material to you in the first place. That's what most public doesn't yet know.
Okay, well, very nice. Once again, you are?
Stephen McIntosh with KPS Consulting.
And for me only, what's your email address?
I've got a card. Yeah.
What issue do you support?
Well, as I said, there are many. Just if you look at local, I would say reform of the jails, meaning better food for the prisoners. I don't believe that jails are supposed to be country clubs, but they're not supposed to be dungeons either. They're overcrowded. They need also better medical for the prisoners. And the latest thing I've come up with is that AT&T is making an awful lot of money off of the phone calls to and the families are paying exorbitant prices for them to call out. Not a good thing. Our forum is coming up on the 25th at the Unitarian Church, and the forum is going to be with Tom Parker, who will be speaking about the militarization of the police. And that is a big cause with us right now.
Well, tell me about that.
Well, from what I know, that the Pentagon, when they have overstock of tanks and more or less war-type weapons, they are giving them to the police departments. They're marketing them to the police departments, and that's wrong. I mean, we have National Guard. If we need military help, we have a National Guard. The police are supposed to be the police, to protect and serve. And I just don't think they need that kind of it's gonna look bad. And let's face it, we don't want to have a police state. Every time you turn around, they're going to run a tank onto the campus up there. Ridiculous. So that's primarily, I think. There are many other causes, and of course we support the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. And if you look at national ACLU, they're doing an awful lot of great cases. They're really overwhelmed. But I'm talking primarily of this area because we're a chapter.
Thank you, and your name is?
Denise Opashon. That's me.
Okay,
thank you.
Denise.
You're welcome, Larry.
If you vote by mail.
Tell me, what social issue do you feel strongly about?
I've been working really hard on Measure P. I just came from going door to door.
For those that don't know, what is
Measure P is on the ballot for Santa Barbara County. It's to ban fracking and extreme oil extraction in the county.
And how's that a social issue?
Oh, it's a social issue in a lot of ways. Fracking in and of itself can be very related to environmental justice. And so in that sense, I would say it's a social issue. But I think the possibility that emissions in Santa Barbara County could double if Measure P does not get passed is an issue for everybody.
Emissions?
Yes, air emissions could double. If Santa Maria Energy wants to put in over 7,000 new wells to frack, the oil companies are spending over $5 million so far to block this measure. So that shows you how much money they see themselves making on fracking and how much fracking they're planning on doing.
Does fracking hurt groundwater?
Potentially, yes. It just came out in Kern County this last week that not only was groundwater contaminated, but it was actually wastewater from fracking. Fracking, they can use up to 600 chemicals, was actually put directly, the wastewater, into aquifers in Kern County. So yes, it has the potential very much to affect water. It also uses a tremendous amount of water, and as everyone knows, we're in a real drought. We're also, the measure also includes steam ejection, which heats water up to over 500 degrees. It also is dangerous.
Why is that dangerous?
Well, because it uses a lot of water, it uses a lot of chemicals. It's relatively new and risky in the way that they're wanting to do it with wells. It's one thing when they're using it for maintenance on existing wells, but these are new techniques, and also acidification, which also uses horrible chemicals to break down oil that's basically in shale. It's not easy to recover. The Measure P does not affect any current conventional wells. It does not affect any current jobs or revenue.
Well, very good.
Okay.
And do you support Yes on P?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thank
I hope
you.
everyone votes.
And your name is?
Jean Kaplan.
Thanks, Jean.
Thanks. Thanks, Larry.
Do you have any other issues you ladies would like to say? What social issue you feel strongly about?
No, thank you.
Sitting here to hang out, but she's very
How do you feel about me?
Well, you're my favorite social issue.
We're going to begin our short program now, so I would appreciate your either taking a seat or grabbing another drink. Our short program is about to begin, so may I have your attention? pleasure to introduce Jose Saleta of Voices Translation to explain the Spanish translation that is available. Please welcome Jose Saleta.
Thank you. Thank you, Ana. Buenas tardes, mi nombre es José Saleta. Voy a proveer interpretación al español esta noche, de modo que si desean escuchar el evento en español, por favor vengan a recoger unos auriculares a la mesa que está a la derecha del podio. Good evening, my name is José Saleta. I'm going to be providing interpretation into Spanish tonight. So if you want to listen to the event in Spanish, please come pick up a headset here at the table next to the podium. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Jose. And this kind of translation is not just for our events. The Fund for Santa Barbara has Santa Barbara County's only fully bilingual Spanish-English grant-making program. It's also my pleasure to introduce Tracy Clark, our ASL interpreter. The fund does all it can to make itself a truly accessible foundation and to walk its talk. As an example, tonight is a zero waste event. Please note, nothing will be thrown away. The green bins are for compost, food, biodegradable plates, cups, and the blue bins are for recycling. Thank you to Green Project Consultants for supporting tonight's event and for being our partner in this event for the past 7 years. Thank you. So I haven't mentioned, my name is Anna DiStefano. I have the privilege of serving as the Vice President of the Board of Trustees, Directors. And one of my favorite things about this event is that I'm originally from Lawrence, Massachusetts, which is the home of the Bread and Roses strike of 1912. So thanks to my grandparents and my parents for their long history and support of this kind of progressive action. I'd also like to thank our musicians, Sidewalk Affair, Elliot Lanham on keyboard and vocals, Stefan McIntyre Bader on vocals, guitar, and sax, and Austin Beatty on drums. Thank you. I know you enjoyed them. And thank you also to Lou Spaventa, who played guitar in the lobby as we were coming in. Thank you, Lou. So welcome to the Fund for Santa Barbara's 21st Annual Bread and Roses Dinner and Auction. We are all grown up. As you know, the Fund for Santa Barbara is a community foundation dedicated to social, economic, environmental, and political change in Santa Barbara County. This only happens if we work together, and the fund helps make connections by serving as a network of progressive activists, donors, and organizers, all of you. Please sign our mailing list if you're not yet on it. Finally, a big thank you, and it will be my pleasure and honor to introduce this year's Bread and Roses co-chairs, Joanne Bell and Margaret Lazarus.
Hi, it's great to see you all here at our annual Fun Celebration Bread and Roses. Thanks to all of you for coming, and a special thanks to those of you who have supported the grassroots social justice work of the fund. You're the reason that the fund is successful. You. And you've supported us for 34 years. So we've been around because of you. Thank you. Today's Bread and Roses event has been made possible by the generosity of more than 400 donors who have donated cash, auction items, volunteer time, and food, wonderful food. The fund has a small and growing endowment, but unlike 90% of foundations, unlike most of the foundations, we raise 90% of our operating expenses from individuals and businesses. And tonight, this Bread and Roses event is our largest fundraiser, and we raise 25% of what we need here, so please give generously. What makes the Fund for Santa Barbara work is a partnership, and it's a partnership of donors, organizers, activists, and volunteers. And over 100 volunteers have helped us with this event. So thank you to them. They've made it really, thank you, volunteers. And I'd also like to thank the major corporations and businesses who have supported this event, including the Hutton Parker Foundation, Decker's Outdoor Corporation, Mesa Lane Partners, the Santa Barbara Independent, QAD for this incredible location, Antioch University of Santa Barbara, Business First Bank, Classic Party Rentals, Fielding Graduate University, Heritage Oats Bank, Impulse Advanced Communications, KCRW, Mullen and Hensel, Parent Click, Sage Publications, SEIU Local 620, Silbury Wealth Advisors. Oh, okay, there they are. The United Domestic Workers of America, Ask for Me, Local 3930, and Vertical Change. And now here's Joanne for more thank yous.
Wow. Okay, I'm going to thank all those people who provided you the food and beverage tonight. Yay! Arch Rock, Arlington Tavern, Butler Events and Marmalade Cafe, China Pavilion, Del Pueblo Cafe, Goodland Kitchen and Market, Harold's Caribbean Kitchen, Namita's Cuisine, Opal, The Pasta Shop, Soho, Via Maestra 42, The Secret Ingredient, Telegraph Brewing Company, Omarosa Winery and Vineyards, Flying Goat Cellars, Calira Winery, Piadro Sassi, Donna and Patrick Will, French Press, and a really great shout out to Pascucci for feeding our volunteers. You know, being a board member of the fund, I think, is the best gig that I have ever had in a very long time. And yesterday, when I was sitting with other volunteers and we were tying those wonderful forks and napkins that I'm sure you all really appreciated, except for mine, I watched and I listened and smiled because I was in the company of staff. They care, they walk it, they talk it, and they do the work. That's the important part. And my job here tonight, and your job here tonight, is to really stay involved with the fund. Yeah, it takes money. It takes your money, it takes my money. All of us have a unique opportunity to make a difference. And I'm not saying these words as platitudes. I speak them because this is what the fund does. It makes a difference, and you are the ones who make that happen. You know, if it weren't for LinkedIn, I wouldn't know a lot of things about a lot of people these days, but I do know that there's a guy standing behind me who's waiting to talk to you. And I got this little notice that flew up on my computer a few days ago that said that Geoff Green has a work anniversary of 17 years with the Fund for Santa Barbara. That deserves a lot. And I get the pleasure of introducing him. Now, I was going to use all G words. But G words, you know, Geoff Green, G words, but I thought that was kind of boring. So, I decided that I'm going to use all 26 words of the alphabet, and I'm going to do it in less than a minute, I hope. And I want to tell you just a little bit about this fellow from A to Z. Active, bold, caring, daring, effective, fearless, gregarious, and gracious. Hell-bent on making this a better world out there. Impassioned, intelligent, judicious, and joyful. Kind, loving, mindful, nice, mad, sometimes just a tad naughty. Open, and just a tad obstinate sometimes. Passionate. If anything, Geoff is passionate about his family and about his work. Quirky, resilient, sincere, thoughtful, undaunted. Vigilant, I couldn't resist this. At times, vulnerable, and Lord knows we know he's visible in this community. The opposite of xenophobic was really not easy to find until I dug it out, and it's xenodokial. I'm going to leave you with that. Young and zippy. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my extreme pleasure to introduce to you an all-around happening guy, Mr. Geoff Green.
Oh man, I forgot my thesaurus. Hi everybody! How are you? I can tell you from here, you are many. We have a big crew here tonight, and I thank you for that. Thank you, welcome. How many first-timers here? Yeah. All right, everybody else at the table, look at these folks and tell them what's really about to happen. They have no idea. All right, well, you don't really have to tell them, actually. That's okay. They'll figure it out soon enough. I am really happy to have you here. I'm going to ask these folks over by the bar, come join us if you want. We got stuff happening. Come on down. All right. A few of them might wander over in a moment. I want to thank our co-chairs, Margaret and Joanne. These folks are my bosses. They're just two of my 16 bosses, but they put in a lot of time, and they don't get paid to do it. So I want to give them a big hand. Thank you, Joanne and Margaret. I want to thank our spectacular auction chair, Denise Ashardes. Denise, you rocked it again. Denise's partner in crime, Kathleen, demoted herself this year to simple committee member. But I have to give her a shout out too. We had an incredible auction committee. We had Jill Johnson, we had Jane Brody, we had Kathleen Scott, Judy Bennett, and Stephen Schweitzer, all working alongside a lot of other volunteers to make this happen. So I want to thank you for that. This is about doing our work together, and there's no better illustration of the togetherness that we're talking about than holding a big party on a beautiful hilltop overlooking this region that we all call home. And I really want to thank you all for being part of it, because this is what it's all about. We're celebrating the fact that we can get things done on a whole number of levels. And I'm going to make a few comments about that tonight. There's a few things that set the fund apart and always have. We were a community foundation founded in 1980 to be an alternative model of philanthropy for a community that wanted to gather around critical, progressive, social, economic, environmental, political justice issues. Our founders, yeah, give that a hand, by all means. Our founders saw no reason why we couldn't do all of this work and be a community foundation at the same time. We could supply dollars, we could supply expertise, support, we could do whatever it took to help grassroots organizers and activists get the work done, and that's what we're here to do. One of the things we do is we engage in politics. We don't think politics is a bad word. We're talking small p politics. Politics is simply the word we use to describe how we all make the rules together. We think nonprofits should be more politically active, not less. We think individuals should be more politically engaged, not less. So I don't buy the P word politics as a bad word. We want everybody engaged in this work. This is our democracy. This is how we decide how we go forward, and that's what we want to see. So, one of the things I'm really proud of about all of us and for all of us is that we engage with our elected officials in all sorts of ways. And one of the ways we engage with them is we invite them to our big party, and guess what? They come. So the fact that they're here means we're doing something right. And I want to introduce some of our many, many elected officials. I'm going to ask for a round of applause at the end because we have several dozen, I kid you not. But I'm going to start at the top, and I'm going to introduce Congresswoman Lois Capps of the 23rd District, who is right over there. We have State Assembly. I know if I told you not to applaud, it's not going to happen. So it's what I'm supposed to do, though. So, State Senator Hannah Beth Jackson is here from the 19th District. We have our Assembly member from the 35th District, Doss Williams. He snuck up on me there. We have our 1st, 2nd, and 3rd District supervisors. 1st District, Salud Carbajal, actually represented by staff and family members today. 2nd District, Janet Wolf is here with us today. From the 3rd District, Doreen Farr is here with us today. The Mayor of Santa Barbara, Helene Schneider, is with us today. From the Santa Barbara City Council, we have Greg Hart, we have Bendy White, and we have Kathy Maria with us today. From the Goleta City Council, we have Jim Farr. From the Santa Barbara School Board, we have Monique Limon, and we have Dr. Pedro Paz. From the Goleta School Board, we have Susan Epstein. From the Santa Barbara Community College District Board, we have Marty Bloom and Peter Hasland were with us today. And from the Goleta West Sanitary District, Dr. David Bierman. Elected officials come to play with us, to celebrate with us, to support us, and that's despite the fact that we show up in their offices sometimes with some pretty tough things to tell them. But that's what democracy is all about. So I want to thank a big round of applause for all of our electeds who are here with us today, our representatives. I want to also thank our board members. Again, my bosses, you heard from a few of them, but with a fun board, stand, raise a hand, make yourselves known. They walk among you, folks. Thank you. Thank you. They're all listed here, if you're wondering, but these are the folks that put in the time to really lead this organization, and I'm very grateful for that. One of them, and I want to give her a particular shout out, one former board president of ours has just reached the end of her maximum term, and that is Tanya Israel, who is right out there in the middle of the crowd. So thank you, Tanya, thank you. We will miss you, but we know where you live. You're not going far. Our grant-making committee, one of the beauties of this organization is that our grant-making committee is separate from our board, separate from our staff. They are made up of community activists, and that is who leads our grant-making work. That is a pure and simple rule for us, that people in the trenches doing the work, organizing on the blocks, in the streets, in the communities, they're in the best place to know what's needed and direct the dollars. And we want to make sure they can do that without fear of who they might annoy, without fear of who they have to. We want to make sure they can do it. Hello, hello. We want to make sure that they can do this and do it in the best sense that they know how. So I want to give a big hand to our grant-making committee. Raise a hand if you're part of it. Our co-chairs, Wendy Sims-Moten, Naira Pacheco. All right, that's what we do here. And let me say, you're here to help them do their job. With every dollar raised tonight, 85 cents of it goes to their work. This is an incredibly efficient event because everybody gives. The food is given, the space is given, almost anything you see here is given. And that means that 85% of the dollars raised go straight into the work. So I'm really proud of that, and I thank you for being part of that. We are poised to make over $500,000 in grants this year once again. $500,000. If you know the fund's history, if you know where we came from, we raise every cent every year. And 17 years was mentioned. That's when I joined the fund. At that time, we were giving $50,000 to $60,000 a year away. So we're 10 times that now and growing, and that's because of you. So thank you for that. So we built this over 34 years. And over that time, this organization has just continued to grow. And there's no better testament to that than what's happening right here. I want to also note one thing in particular. The recession, starting in 2008, the Great Recession, as it is called, we have doubled our size since 2008. So while others were pulling back, we had this incredibly resilient base of supporters, and that is you. Look around you. That's who I'm talking about. We've doubled our size since 2008. So that is a huge, huge compliment to you, to all of us, and the work we do together. And I want to thank you for that. So just a couple comments on the work before I turn over the mic. Why Bread and Roses? We called this event Bread and Roses pretty much since its inception. Bread and Roses is actually a more than a century old, 102 years old as a matter of fact, term. It comes out of the labor movement. It comes out of Lawrence, Massachusetts. And it was a chant that was used, and later a song, and now movies, and you name it. But it was there to signify bread and roses as having basically symbolization of bread for fair pay for fair work, a living wage. Roses for all the quality of life things that go with that. So it's not just the money, it's just not just the community and the quality of your life, it's both. And that's what Bread and Roses symbolized then. It's what it symbolizes now. Just to give you an idea, those union meetings, 1912, Lawrence, Massachusetts, translated into over 20 languages. Immigrants of all over this planet were there working in the mills, in the textile mills, and they took to the streets to demand better working conditions, better wages, better quality of life, and they won. And that is the symbol that we like to invoke here when we do this work. So to all of our friends in the labor movement, and they're here tonight, folks from the United Domestic Workers, folks from SEIU, this is what we're invoking, is over a century of labor. It was also a feminist movement. These were young women. It was also an immigrant movement. These were folks from all over the planet. So these are the things that come together that we think is important. Now this is long-term work, right? This doesn't happen tomorrow. It doesn't happen the next day. This is us committing our lives, our days, our weeks, our months, to making sure that we all do this better. We do it better together. We open the doors for those who don't have access. We level the playing field. You can choose your favorite metaphor, but that's what this work is about. And there's histories of social, economic, environmental change. These are interlinked. We don't think one's more important than the other. You can't have environmental justice if you don't have access to the polls. You can't have political access if you don't have folks out there making a living wage able to go to those polls. Or mail in those ballots, by the way. Monday is the deadline for voter registration, and you all know that November 4th is the election. So, it always starts at home. It always starts in our backyard. The policies we later see at the state and federal level started here. We need to always remember that. It never goes top-down. We're not talking top-down economics. We're not talking top-down politics. It starts with community saying this is what we need, this is what we demand, and they work for it. And that's how we get here. History's on our side, and that's what keeps me optimistic. And seriously, if you do this work day in and day out, and many of us here on this lawn do it, it's not easy to keep your smile. It's not easy to keep your energy. It's not easy to always feel good about the way it goes. But if you look at the long history, that long arc of history that so many, including MLK, have talked about, that long arc, it bends in our favor. It bends toward us making this a fairer, more accessible, more equitable, cleaner, safer place. And that's what we're doing here together. And let me just give you a couple of examples. A year ago, we were excited about a few things with LGBTQ equality. We were talking about marriage equality. We were talking about the end of DOMA. We were talking about the end of Don't Ask, Don't Tell. We were talking about a couple of states that have moved forward. As of today, 32 states recognize same-sex marriage. That's an incredible pace of progress. Now they're looking on to non-discrimination and employment. They're looking on to many bigger, broader issues. But this is progress that it takes decades to lay the groundwork for, and now we're here. We look at climate change. Some of us remember when this honestly was a debate. Some people still say it's a debate. Of course, we know it's not. But there was a time when we were debating climate change. Now everyone knows this is real. We have something to do with it. We've got to do something about it. We've got to take a look at our energy policy. We've got to take a look at our air quality standards. And the conversation has changed dramatically just in the last 18 months. Not enough, by the way, but dramatically. And this actually brings me to something that's on the ballot right now. And I have the microphone tonight, and we believe in political engagement. So I'm going to engage politically here for a moment. I want to talk about Measure P. Measure P, just 18 months ago, was a group of organizers saying, we think we can pull this off. Will you help us? And we thought, gosh, we think that's a great goal. We're optimistic. We believe in you. Sure, we can help. But you've got a really short time frame here, and you've got to gather a lot of signatures. Well, guess what? 16,000 plus signatures later, the Water Guardians had it on the ballot. the folks that are working on P have gathered 250,000, they've gone out and made 250,000 calls. They've knocked on 15,000 doors. They're talking to people where they live about the fact that we need to be very, very careful moving forward about our petroleum-based economy. Now, we all know we're not changing tomorrow. This isn't about purity politics. This isn't about pretending most of us don't drive cars and use oil in our everyday lives. It's not about oil people being evil. This is about the fact that as a community, we've decided that we've weighed the risks, and high-intensity oil development is not worth the risk. That's it. That's what P is about. This doesn't put anybody out of business. This doesn't kill jobs. This doesn't kill the economy. This doesn't do any of those things that we're being told. The $5 million plus that's been raised on the no on P side, we know where the money comes from. We expected it would be raised and spent. It's 20-1 against the yes on P folks that put it on the ballot, the grassroots organizers that put it there. But the polling still shows if people got out and voted, and that means every last one of us, we pass Measure P. All right? That's what I have to say to you. If you don't believe me, if you think that I'm drinking some Kool-Aid or I don't know my facts or the folks that are pushing P haven't done their homework, I really encourage you to do that, because the fact is this is a simple, straightforward measure. There's a long history of keeping petroleum development in check in this county and simply saying that is not worth the risk. So that's what we're doing here with P, and I really appreciate you. I'm gonna quote Barry Lopez because he's one of my favorite writers. He wrote this brilliant essay back in 1990 that I love to quote, and it's a very long excerpt, but I want to read the last part. And he says simply, when we hear people talk about wanting to self-police, when we hear people hearkening to a heritage of a noble independence, there's simply no historical foundation for this. Outside of a few single individuals and a few small groups who attended to the responsibilities of living on the land, the reciprocities involved, the history of use of the American landscape has been lawless exploitation, and when an industry asks to police itself, we must have the courage to say there is no precedent. So that's it. People aren't bad. It's simply that the community has to step up and draw the lines and say what we're comfortable with, and that's what we're doing. So, yes on P. That's my point. I want to introduce two of my heroes here tonight. We have with us here Kathy Duvall. Kathy Duvall is one incredible political organizer who I met some nearly 20 years ago. Probably haven't seen her in 15, but that's okay. She's here tonight. She hired me for my first campaign. That was Measure A. Remember what that was? That was an oil initiative, and we won, by the way. There are some incredible organizers in this community. Kathy's now working on a state, national, even international scale, probably fair to say. But there are some great folks that come out of this work. Also with us tonight is Carl Pope. Carl Pope, you may know, is the very recently retired executive director of the National Sierra Club. Carl is an environmental hero to many of us. And again, when we talk about the need for looking forward in our environmental policy, there's a leader. So we gather leaders here, and I want to thank you both for being here and being part of this. This work is long haul, but if you keep at it, you see there are wins, and that's the progress we're talking about. I'll mention a few more issues. Labor and wages. You've seen local and states, jurisdictions pass living wages because state and federal government simply isn't up to the task yet. So our states, California's doing better. We got to keep pushing. Even the chair of the Federal Reserve is talking about wealth inequality in the United States. Can you believe that? The chair of the Federal Reserve, not exactly a bastion of radical political activism, is talking about the problem of wealth inequality. Local minimum wages as high as $15 an hour have been passed in 13 states and 10 local governments in just the last 2 years. So this is something we're going to see here. Don't think we aren't. We have a long history. We're going to keep going. And incarceration. You know, the school-to-prison pipeline that everyone talks about, it's a big problem in this United States of ours. Yet we have programs that are actually turning it into a prison-to-school pipeline, like at Santa Barbara City College with the Transitions program. Right? We're funding this sort of work right here at home. We're talking about immigration policy. Again, if we can't get federal action in a timely fashion, we have folks doing things that they can at a state level and even a local level. We talk about violence. We talk about mental health. We've had a very tough year in this region. And that intricate connection between mental health, gun violence in particular, but violence in general, we have local legislators, state legislators that are doing things about it, and they're spurred on by grassroots organizing. So this is the work. And I want to ask everybody to give a hand to all of these activist organizers, no matter who you are. This is what we're doing. I have particular motivation on this. I was lucky enough to fall into work where I actually get paid to do this work, and I love it. I can't imagine anything I would rather do. But most people that do this work don't. So I'm very lucky. Some of us in this room also are, this lawn. But, you know, with a family now, I really am thinking about what are we leaving the folks that come after us. I have a 3-year-old. Hi, Ellery. I know you're back there. You were back there with Mama. Yeah, I have a 9-month-old. I think about what are they going to say to me 20, 30, 40 years from now about how we did. And I think that's important. It sounds cliche, but all of us need to be thinking not about our own kids, whether you have them or not, but about your neighbor's kids, your community's children, children's children, 7 generations down, as we've been reminded. We do a lot of things here at the Fund. We give grants, we do technical assistance and training, and we also have some special programs. I want to give a particular shout out to the Youth Making Change work. This is training the next generation of philanthropists. Teaching people how to think about money as a tool for social justice, for environmental justice. We work with the Santa Barbara International Film Festival to recognize filmmakers and our Social Justice Award for documentary film. So we are trying to embrace all this work, and we cannot do it without you. I want to give you some numbers and say we are walking into this event with more dollars raised than ever before, and we hope to walk out with more dollars raised than ever before. And that's because of you, so thank you. In closing, I just want to introduce the fabulous people I get to work with before I bring up our auctioneer. I have the privilege of working with an incredible staff, in addition to some incredible volunteers, but I want to introduce my staff members, my colleagues. And I want to start with a guy that works behind the scenes doing all kinds of things with our technical assistance program, but also with this event, and that is Technical Assistance Program Manager Gary Clark. I'm going to take a little credit here. I recruited Gary, you know that? Gary and I worked together as RAs like 20 years ago. I made up a job for Gary. It wasn't the one he has now, but anyway, thank you for everything, Gary. I also want to thank my predecessor and mentor, Nancy Weiss, who hired me. She's been doing this, ladies and gentlemen. There's another bigger anniversary here to celebrate, 20 years this year. Nancy has been a part of the staff for 20 years. I wasn't even born when she started working for the Fund for Santa Barbara. Yeah, I do wish. Thanks, Eileen. The grants program, which of course is the flagship program, the program that most people know about us, is now ably run by Alina Richardson. Alina is our grants program manager, and she's right over here. Also recruited Alina. Talked about it for years. She decided she was going to stay here. Found a job. We're happy. Thank you, Alina. And also in our Southern County office, the newest addition. We can't call you that for much longer, Javier. But our administrative coordinator, Javier Moreno. We dressed very similarly, and he wore a green tie just to tell us apart. So I appreciated you did that. Thank you. And then in our Santa Maria office, who does the work of several normal people, Christina Gonzalez, who staffs our Santa Maria office, runs our Youth Making Change program. Did you notice that Christina also matches Javier's tie? That was so cool the way they did that. I didn't even notice that until right now. So these are the folks. I mean, this is the staff that I get to work with every day, and I'm very lucky that way. We have a lot of fun in our work, despite the fact that it's very serious work, and we know we need to spend our days and nights making sure that things run smoothly. We love it, and we're very honored to do it together. We have some fabulous interns as well. I want to particularly thank Christina Nam, who's here. Oh, look at that, waving from the balcony. Thank you, Tina. Not with us tonight, but also interning with the fund right now, Jennifer Navarro, Lindley Dobro, and Uni Kim. We have some incredible volunteers and interns. Let's give them all a hand. All right, anything else you want to know about us, it's right here. Take a look at your program. There's grants lists on the tables. This beautiful program, by the way, if you're wondering who did it, her name is Jenny Van Setters. She's standing over here.